Faith of our fathers living still, in spite of dungeon, fire, and sword. Oh, our hearts beat high with joy whene'er we hear that glorious word. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. Our fathers chained in prisons dark were still in heart and conscience free. How sweet would be their children's faith if they like them would die for thee. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. Faith of our fathers we will love, both friend and foe in all our strife, and preach thee too as love knows how, by kindly words and virtuous life. Faith of our fathers, holy faith, we will be true to thee till death. We will be true to thee till death. Happy Sabbath, everyone. Indeed, the Lord is faithful, He is merciful, and He is gracious. Indeed, it's a privilege for us to be here once more on His holy Sabbath day, to lift His name on high, to learn at His feet, and to testify of His goodness in our lives. Welcome to Sabbath School for this morning, April 11, 2020, and today we'll be looking at the theme, Faith in Action. Matthew 24, verses 37 to 39 reads, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days of Noah that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be." Today we see the social and cultural norms of the past, built on biblical foundations, disappearing fast. Homosexuality and other sexual perversions are wrong according to the Bible. Yes, love people, but bring them to the foot of the cross, where Christ can control their lives. Economic and political stability is uncertain. The economical landscape is changing daily to reflect the fulfillment of Revelation 13, with the world wondering after, marveling at, and following the beast. In this setting, Seventh-day Adventists have been called to proclaim Christ, His Word, His righteousness, His sanctuary service, His saving power in the great controversy, His three angels' messages, His health message, His last day mission to the world, and Christ's soon second coming. Let us never forget how God has led us, His current guidance, and His future leading. God never changes, and neither does His truth, as we come closer to Christ's soon appearing. Genesis chapter 6, 5 through to 7. "And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. When God looks on us, do we find grace in his eyes? Does he find us faithful as Noah was? Thank God that in the days of Noah there was Noah. By the grace of God, we can also be faithful to the calling of a last day remnant people who by his grace and righteousness will be his last generation on earth as we proclaim this precious Advent message. The Desire of Ages, chapter entitled On the Mount of Olives. The inhabitants of the antediluvian world turned from Jehovah. Refusing to do his holy will, they followed their own unholy imagination and perverted ideas. It was because of their wickedness that they were destroyed, and today the world is following the same way. It presents no flattering signs of millennial glory. The transgressors of God's law are filling the earth with wickedness. Their betting, their horse racing, their gambling, their dissipation, their lustful practices, their untamable passions are fast filling the world with violence. In today's Sabbath School, we'll be looking at 4 practical lessons from the life of Noah in regards to our theme, Faith in Action. Our first one is preaching and living. More than 100 years before the flood, the Lord sent an angel to faithful Noah to make known to him that he would no longer have mercy upon the corrupt race, but he would not have them ignorant of his design. He would instruct Noah and make him a faithful preacher to warn the world of his coming destruction, that the inhabitants of the earth might be left without excuse. Noah was to preach to the people and also to prepare an ark, as God should direct him for the saving of himself and family. He was not only to preach, but his example in building the ark was to convince all that he believed what he preached. The next point is building an ark of safety. It is no time now for God's people to be fixing their affections or laying up their treasure in the world. The time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, we shall be forced to seek a refuge in desolate and solitary places. As the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies was the signal for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal sabbath will be a warning to us. It will then be time to leave the Lord's cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. And now, instead of seeking expensive dwellings here, we should be preparing to move to a better country, even a heavenly. Instead of spending our means in self-gratification, we should be studying to economize. Testimonies for the Church. Point number 3. Tested and found faithful. The Sabbath will be the great test of loyalty, for it is the point of truth especially controverted. When the final test shall be brought to bear upon men, then the line of distinction will be drawn between those who serve God and those who serve Him not. While the observance of the false Sabbath, in compliance with the law of the state, contrary to the fourth commandment, will be an avowal of allegiance to a power that is in opposition to God, the keeping of the true Sabbath in obedience to God's law is an evidence of loyalty to the Creator, while one class, by accepting the sign of submission to earthly powers, receive the mark of the beast. The other, choosing the token of allegiance to divine authority, receive the seal of God. As the storm approaches, a large class will have professed faith in the third angel's message, but have not been sanctified through obedience to the truth, abandon their position, and join the ranks of the opposition. By uniting with the world and partaking of its spirit, they have come to view matters in nearly the same light. And when the test is brought, they are prepared to choose the easy, popular side. Men of talent and pleasing address, who once rejoiced in the truth, employ their powers to deceive and mislead souls. They become the most bitter enemies of their former brethren. When Sabbath keepers are brought before the courts to answer for their faith, these apostates are the most efficient agents of Satan to misrepresent and accuse them, and by false reports and insinuations to stir up the rulers against them. In this time of persecution, the faith of the Lord's servants will be tried. They have faithfully given the warning, looking to God and to His word alone. God's Spirit, moving upon their hearts, has constrained them to speak. Stimulated with holy zeal and with the divine impulse strong upon them, they entered upon the performance of their duties without coldly calculating the consequences of speaking to the people the word which the Lord had given them. They have not consulted their temporal interests, nor sought to preserve their reputation or their lives. Yet when the storm of opposition and reproach bursts upon them, some, overwhelmed with consternation, will be ready to exclaim, "Had we foreseen the consequences of our words, we would have held our peace." They are hedged in with difficulties. Satan assails them with fierce temptations. The work which they have undertaken seems far beyond their ability to accomplish. They are threatened with destruction. The enthusiasm which animated them is gone, yet they cannot turn back. Then, feeling their utter helplessness, they flee to the Mighty One for strength. They remember that the words which they have spoken were not theirs, but His who bade them give the warning. God put the truth into their hearts, and they could not forbear to proclaim it. Great controversy, the final warning. Our final point, watching and waiting. We anticipate the solemn events, Christ's second coming. We are not, because we are in the attitude of waiting and watching. to be indolent, doing nothing. But as we view the great event of Christ's coming, and as we see the necessity of watching and waiting for it, we must unite zeal and diligent industry to our waiting and watching. A life of idleness or mere meditation and abstraction will not answer for the waiting, watching ones, neither will it be safe or justifiable for the waiting, watching ones to become so busy in worldly matters that they cease to watch and forget their peculiar position as waiting ones. They should not be busy in a busy excitement like worldlings, and become surfeited and drunken with the cares of this life. A drunken man is bewildered. The fine organs of the brain are beclouded. This is exactly the position of professed Christians who allow the cares of this life and the deceitfulness of riches to have such a powerful influence upon them as to eclipse the attractions of heaven. They become insane in their worldly pursuits. Because we know not the exact time of his coming, we are commanded to watch. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Luke 12, verse 37. Those who watch for the Lord's coming are not waiting in idle expectancy. The expectation of Christ's coming is to make men fear the Lord, and fear is judgments upon transgression. It is to awaken them to the great sin of rejecting his offers of mercy. Those who are watching for the Lord are purifying their souls by obedience to the truth. With vigilant watching, they combined earnest working. Because they know that the Lord is at the door, their zeal is quickened to cooperate with the divine intelligences in working for the salvation of souls. These are the faithful and wise servants who give to the Lord's household their portion of meat in due season. Luke 14, verse 42. They are declaring the truth that is now specially applicable, as Enoch, Noah, Abraham, and Moses each declare the truth for his time. So Christ's servants now give the special warning for their generation. Amen.